Remain standing for the parliamentary prayer.
Let's pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society, good of all human lives upon it, and the just government of its people, we beseech you to look with your abundant favor upon us, your servants, whom you have entrusted with the performance of such important trust in this community. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our attention and deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace and community heads of state. I also recognize the Right Honorable Dr. Moses Wetangula, Speaker of the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya, and Right Honorable Amason Jeffa King, Speaker of the Senate of Kenya. I have, in accordance with the provisions of Article 54 of the treaty, invited His Excellency, the President, to address the Assembly. I now proceed to make the following proclamation to welcome His presence in the Assembly. Whereas Article 54, Item 1 of the treaty provides that the Speaker of the Assembly may invite any person to attend the Assembly, notwithstanding that he or she is not a member of the Assembly, if, in his or her opinion, the business of the Assembly renders his or her presence desirable. And whereas, in the opinion of the Speaker, the attendance and presence in the Assembly of the President of the Republic of Kenya is desirable in accordance with business now before the Assembly. Now, therefore, it is with great pleasure and honor on your behalf, honorable members, to welcome His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, in this Assembly. Given under my hands this Tuesday, 5th day of March 2024.
Order number 5, address by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, starting with welcome remarks by Speaker of Yala.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei RUTO, President of the Republic of Kenya, Chairperson and members of the East African Council of Ministers, present here, I recognize the Minister from Rwanda, I recognize the Minister from Kenya, I recognize the Chair of the Council, the Minister from South Sudan. Thank you for being there. Secretary General of the East African Community, Cabinet Secretaries of the Republic of Kenya present, honorable members of the East African Legislative Assembly and the Parliament of Kenya, permanent secretaries and the senior government officials in attendance, members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, our sittings in Nairobi will run from 4th to 20th March 2024 at the Parliament of Kenya. We are indeed honored to have you amidst us, even your busy schedule. I welcome you to this special sitting, and your presence here today exemplifies the deep commitment you hold to the East African community. Thank you. Thank you for positively responding to our invitation. Your Excellency, as you may know, the term of this Assembly, which is the 5th Assembly, commenced on 19th December 2022. On that occasion, we were joined for the very first time by our colleagues from the DRC. Very soon, we shall have members from Somalia. Allow me to thank the summit for the vision of an expanded EAC. With Somalia on board, the bloc now has 8 members. All in all, I have a very good team of MPs of the IALA of the 5th Assembly, and I'm particularly blessed that the Kenya sent to IALA a very seasoned, knowledgeable, and hard-working team. They are led by their chair, Honorable Hassan Omar. We have Honorable Zipporah Kerin, Honorable Kanini Kega, Honorable Suleiman Shabal, Honorable Kennedy Kalonzo, Honorable Falada Iman, Honorable Winnie Odinga, Honorable Maina Karobia, and Honorable David Sankok. Your Excellency, we also have members from different chapters. I would like to invite the chapter from Burundi to stand up for recognition. Then we have chapter from DRC, Congo. Please stand up. Thank you. Then we have chapter, Rwanda chapter. Thank you. Then we have South Sudan chapter. They are very tall. Eh? Then we have Tanzania. Thank you. Then we have Uganda. Thank you. Your Excellency, our sitting in Kenya is based on our desire to bring the Assembly to the peoples of Kenya. This is provided under Article 55 of the EAC Treaty, that the Assembly should have sittings in the partner states. We are therefore grateful to the leadership of the Republic of Kenya for graciously accepting to host us. Special thanks are also conveyed to the Right Honorable Moses Wetangula, the Speaker of the Kenya National Assembly, and the Right Honorable Jeffer Amason King, the Speaker of the Senate of Kenya, for according us very excellent facilities. Your Excellency, our forefathers supported the idea of rotational sittings because it enhances the visibility of the East African community, it increases public awareness, participation of people in the integration process. It also serves as an opportunity to enhance cooperation with the national assemblies of the partner states in line with the requirements of Article 65 of the treaty. It also provides an opportunity for head of states to speak to East Africans of the region for a united and prosperous EAC. As EALA, we shall also tap into your wisdom on integration. Your Excellency, during our sittings, we shall consider 5 bills, 8 committee oversight reports, 9 questions to the Council of Ministers, 3 petitions from the EAC citizens, 6 motions for resolutions of the Assembly, and a report to amend the EALA rules of procedure. We shall also engage in joint activities with our brothers and sisters of Parliament of Kenya in order to foster deep cooperation amongst our institutions. We shall also embark on outreach and sensitization of the people of Kenya, particularly through the Kenya Women Parliamentary Association, the Parliamentary Youth Caucus, and interface with Kenyan traders on cross-border trade. Members will also grace the International Women's Day celebrations in Embu County, while some will visit the Maasai community in Narok County. Honorable Sankok, you invited us. Your Excellency, before I conclude, allow me, in a special way to thank you in person and the Parliament of Kenya, as well as the ministry responsible for EAC affairs, for being the lead partner state in completing her subscription to EAC by 100% and in a timely manner. I also wish to commend you for your able and visionary leadership, which has enhanced the visibility and the development of Kenya. Under your leadership, we note the positive and close working relations you have had with the leadership of both houses of Kenya Parliament and to us, and this explains the progress you have as a country. On matters of peace, security, and unity, you have done very well by championing homegrown solutions to issues that affect our partner states and the region. For example, we all saw you recently with the Honorable Raila Odinga working side by side with President Museveni, engrossed in deep discussions on how to advance regional peace, enhance freedoms for Kenyans, and work for the common good of our peoples. It is only through such that the pursuit of homegrown solutions, even to the DRC crisis, will make our region an invite to all and will spur development. This serves to portray the EAC mechanism for conflict resolution in high esteem. I want to further thank you for the lead you are taking in promoting world peace by taking the mantle of stabilizing countries that are facing insecurity. It is a good move, but not all the external forces may be happy about it because you have rightly challenged the inaction. You can, however, count on EALA, the EAC, and Africa at large for support, since these efforts renew your commitment to ensuring peace and security for Kenya, the region, Africa, and beyond. On your calls from reforms of the international financial institutions, such as IMF and the World Bank, we are proud to be associated with you with your bold statements calling for reforms to ensure fairness, inclusivity, equity, and equal opportunities for developing nations like those in our region, who continue to be impoverished and marginalized by the developed world through these institutions. The debt cycle they put us in should end so that we can generate international resources to spur growth on local industries, infrastructure, and economically empower our citizens. We in EALA, we have already adopted resolutions on promoting use of local currencies instead of the US dollar to pay for services, resolution to promote local leather industries by banning unprocessed hides, among others. We also associate ourselves with your stand on reforming global action on climate change and the environment, and the leadership you continue to give during global summits. As has been noted, in many quarters, your words of wisdom have often been inspirational. Having said that, And before I invite Your Excellency to address the Assembly, I invite my brother, the chairperson of the East African Community Council of Ministers, to make brief remarks. I thank you all for listening to me.
I'm very short, please. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei RUTO, President of the Republic of Kenya, Right Honorable Joseph, Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly, my colleagues, ministers, and members of the Council, Honorable Dr. Peter Thiuki, Secretary General of the East African Community, all honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. Your Excellency, let me start by joining the Right Honorable Speaker in welcoming Your Excellency to this special sitting of the Assembly and expressing the gratitude of the Council of Ministers to you for finding time in your very busy schedule to address the Assembly. Your Excellency, I bring greetings from the Chair of the East African Head of State Summit, His Excellency Salva Kiir Mayardit, and register his commitment to a peaceful community and as demonstrated by his ongoing consultations with head of state in the region with view to ensuring a stable and peaceful region. Your Excellency, allow me to also congratulate you, Your Excellency, on the new role of champion of institutional reform which the African Union head of state have entrusted you with. This is a testament to your strong promotion and unwavering advocacy for the African voice in regional and global matters. Regional peace and security and the effective and efficient functioning of organs and institutions set up to deepen and widen our African integration agenda. Your Excellency, this being the first time that the Fifth Assembly is holding its plenary session in Nairobi and in the Republic of Kenya, and also the first time since Your Excellency is addressing the Assembly, as a member of the Summit of East African Head of State, we are all keen to receive your guidance and wisdom on the direction and areas of focus for the community from your perspective. I'm pleased to inform you that in order to foster a unified economic landscape that benefits all partner states, the community continues to rely on the Assembly to enact regional laws that create a more conducive environment for increased trade and investment, through oversight to highlight any inconsistencies and gaps in the trade policies, legal and regulatory frameworks of the partner states, as we look towards the establishment of a functioning and efficient monetary union for the East African community. Furthermore, Your Excellency, I wish to confirm that the Secretary General has informed me that the Federal Republic of Somalia has formally deposited instruments of ratification with his office, and therefore the Federal Republic of Somalia is now a full member of the East African community. On this note, Your Excellency, I want to thank the Secretary General and his team for this good work done. As a Council, Your Excellency, we are looking toward the Assembly to inform policy decisions we continue to seek for prosperity for our people in order to enhance the East African Community Integration Agenda. And where necessary, we shall make recommendations and seek the guidance of the East African Summit of the State. Your Excellency, as I conclude, we are grateful to the Summit of East African Head of State for adopting a sustainable funding model to stem the financial challenges and community has been facing largely through none or delayed remission of contributions to the budget of the community by partner states. And once again, Your Excellency, I thank Your Excellency for agreeing to address the community through this special sitting of the Fifth Assembly in Nairobi. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, before I invite you to address the Assembly, I would like to recognize in this chamber the following dignitaries. We have the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Kenya. Please stand up for recognition. Thank you. We have the Honorable Salim Muria, Cabinet Secretary for Mining and Blue Economy. Please stand up for recognition. Thank you. We have Honorable Kato Ole Metito, State House Controller. Please stand up. Thank you. We have Mr. Abdi Dubat, Principal Secretary, State Development for East Africa Affairs. Please stand up. Thank you. Oh. And we have the members of diplomatic corps, and I have to recognize that among them, I have Honorable Martin Ngoga, who was the Speaker of IALA 4. Please stand up. Thank you. Thank you. He's my mentor somewhere. It's him who taught me how to behave. 7, we have the former members of IALA who are present here. Please stand up for recognition. Thank you for coming. Thank you again. And I have to recognize other senior state officials of the government of Kenya who would be present here. Thank you. And I have also to recognize the member of the 4th estate who are there. Please, we should recognize them. Thank you. Your Excellency, finally, it is with a great pleasure and honor that I all execute my humble duty to welcome you to address us. You are most welcomed, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Your
Honorable
Excellency.
members.
Thank you.
You may take your seats. This podium is a bit high or something. I don't know whether we can take it down a bit. Anyway, the Honorable Joseph Ntakuri Timana, Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly. Honorable members the Secretary General of the East African Community, members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first take this opportunity on behalf of the government and people of Kenya to welcome honorable members from Yala to Nairobi, and it is my wish that you will enjoy deliberations in Nairobi and also have time to enjoy Kenya. Mr. Speaker, let me apologize because I have been away from Parliament for now more than 10 years. And I found myself doing the wrong things. Because when it was time to applause, I found myself clapping. And I know that is not the tradition in Parliament. I had to remind myself. But I am delighted to join this august assembly today to preside over the official opening of the third session of the 5th East African Legislative Assembly, and to have the honor of welcoming you back to our Parliament chambers in Nairobi after 6 years. It is immensely gratifying to note that the work of intensifying the integration of East African community has proceeded at an encouraging pace, so that while much remains to be done for us to accomplish our aspiration, the progress we have made has taken us closer to it incrementally. It is no overstatement to acknowledge the contribution of this assembly towards making this progress possible. At the beginning of this session, it is appropriate to reaffirm our collective devotion to the constitutive aspirations of our community and therefore the objectives of East African regional integration. There is no denying that our vision to be a prosperous, competitive, secure, stable, and politically united East Africa is taking shape at a higher rate than before. The ultimate aim of this noble enterprise is to transform and translate economic, political, and social, as well as cultural integration into a positive impact on the well-being of every citizen of East Africa. Our common agenda, therefore, is to set out optimal policies and strategies which unite us firmly in the singular pursuit of positive transformation in the political and economic, social and cultural, research and development, as well as technology and innovation, including defense and security, and also the legal and judicial sectors of our society. It is fair to say that much of our efforts cannot proceed, let alone succeed, without the loyal contribution and hard work of our community's legislative organs. This organ of Yala, as well as the respective parliaments. This assembly accentuates the direct linkage between common regional and specific intra-member state policies by performing the vital and simultaneous functions of embedding regional integration agenda at the heart of domestic policymaking, while also ensuring that the EAC represents, articulates, and projects the interests of member states as well as the entire collectivity of our community. Our people's journey to a prosperous, competitive, secure, stable, and politically united East Africa entails the implementation of policies and establishment of institutions under the four well-known pillars of our integration, namely a customs union, a common market, monetary union, and a political federation. The instruments and frameworks needed to bring into operation our semi-autonomous institutions, delineate our areas of cooperation, and attend to the pillars of integration are promulgated under the exclusive mandate of this Assembly, which has demonstrated exemplary dedication to its legislative function, consensus deference to important lessons from the history of our regional integration efforts, and a vigilant commitment to deliver a robust architecture for the successful delivery of an ambitious program of action for our community. By dint of a consistent drive to implement our collective vision for integration, this Assembly has enabled us to overcome the shortcomings which rendered the first East Africa community so vulnerable that it ultimately collapsed, and to make significant progress on each pillar of integration, thereby making EAC a resilient, dynamic, progressive region on the threshold of historic transformation. Our customs union is on the move, with this Assembly creating legislative frameworks to establish a common external tariff, uniform customs rules and procedures, and common rules of origin. And I want to congratulate members here for being patriotic to EAC and making sure these instruments are in place. These frameworks also provide for the elimination of non-tariff barriers and the implementation of a single customs territory, one-stop border posts, as well as the facilitation of the development of regional and national trade information portals. For example, in a couple of weeks, President Museveni and I will be launching the one-stop border post in Swam, a border between Kenya and Uganda, complete with a road connecting both countries that was sourced by funding that was collectively undertaken by the government of Kenya and the government of Uganda. Similarly, the Assembly has provided the framework to conclude the COMESA EAC SADC tripartite free trade area agreement. The signing of the agreement establishes the African Continental Free Trade Area also, and the adoption of the EAC e-commerce strategy. As you are aware, the bringing together of the tripartite agreement will bring 27 countries into one common market with a GDP of approximately $750 billion. That will make it possible for East Africa, parts of North Africa, and the whole of South Africa to trade together and to eliminate trade barriers that consistently stand in the way in our quest to enhance and expand business, trade, enterprise in our region. Consequently, the turnaround time for trucks has reduced significantly along all our transport corridors, and the clearance in time at border crossings has reduced by 84%, making trade more efficient in our region. This is why intra-EAC trade holds the highest position among trading blocs in our continent at 25%. With a combined GDP of US $350 billion, a population of approximately 350 million, and an expansive area of 5 million square kilometers, the EAC member states are an attractive investment destination. East African Community total trade in 2022 stood at US $74 billion. The same year, Africa accounted for 44% and 25% of EAC's total exports and imports, respectively. This Assembly, likewise, has enabled the community implement the Common Market Protocol, which guarantees free cross-border movement of persons, labor, services, and capital, as well as the right of establishment and residence through the use of standard identification systems, harmonized travel documents, mutual recognition of qualifications, and harmonized labor and social policy frameworks. The EAC e-passport is now internationally recognized, while several member states now permit citizens to travel using the national identity cards. Visa fees for cross-border movements have mostly been eliminated, and cross-border communities now enjoy free movement. Students can enroll and transfer with greater ease. Regional institutions now implement mutual recognition agreements for various professional qualifications. To actualize the East African Monetary Union by 2031, because that's our aspiration, this assembly must provide the necessary framework to anchor the full implementation of the customs union and common market protocols, especially through the establishment of vital organizations such as the Monetary Institute, Bureau of Statistics, Financial Services, as well as the Surveillance and Enforcement Commissions. I know this is already in your radar, and it is our hope, as members of the summit, that you will discharge your responsibility of making sure these instruments are in place to facilitate the greater integration of our union. Additionally, the Assembly should facilitate the convergence of criteria for macroeconomic governance and provide for the harmonization of both fiscal and monetary policies. The fourth pillar of East African integration, the political federation, depends on effective cooperation in the fields of political affairs, regional peace and security, as well as defense cooperation. The transitional model for our federation is already in place in the form of the East African Political Confederation, under which we have been able to deploy the East African Community Regional Force, for example, to restore peace and security in Eastern DRC, while other achievements under the transitional model include the Chief Justice's Forum to strengthen the rule of law, enhance access to justice, and facilitate the evolution of a distinct East African jurisprudence. Similarly, the other platforms have been established to enable progressive engagement between national institutions through the exchange of information, skills, and capacity, and developing common regional standards in such diverse fields as good governance, election management, and human rights institutions, and institutions that govern anti-corruption. We now have in place protocols on defense, as well as peace and security, together with the EAC Mutual Defense Pact, the EAC Early Warning Mechanism, Protocol on Combating Illegal Drug Trafficking, and EAC Interreligious Council, and a framework for conducting public participation on the establishment of the political federation, which has already been concluded in Kenya, in Uganda, and in Burundi. And we already made a decision last year in Arusha that that process must be concluded in the other remaining states by June this year, so that we can have a way forward. And I want to tell you, when this exercise was conducted in Kenya, it received overwhelming endorsement by the people of Kenya. It received similar endorsement in Burundi and in Uganda. I want to urge members of parliament who are here from our sister states of Tanzania, Rwanda, DRC, and South Sudan to assist the EAC Secretariat and the team that is mandated to carry out this exercise. that this exercise be concluded as we have asked from the Summit of the Heads of State by June, so that we can begin to make steps in the right direction. And if there is an institution that will assist us in actualizing the aspirations of East Africans, it is this Parliament. There is no doubt that as a result of the progress made in entrenching our regional integration as a social, cultural, political, and economic reality, East Africa is emerging as the beacon of unity, stability, security, and progress, and the beating heart of Pan-African integration and the engine of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, as well as the epicenter of Africa's move to position itself as the next frontier of global investment and industrial transformation. That is why, honorable members, we have grown tremendously from 3 founding partner states to 8 countries, connecting the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic, serving 350 million citizens and forging a major market. These achievements are chiefly due to the contribution, to a great extent, by the East African Legislative Assembly. The work that this assembly does matters to us as governments and matters to the people of East Africa. We must therefore remain focused on what is at stake, committed to complete the outstanding work, and determined to do our very best at all times when called upon to serve the people of our region. Peace, stability, and security must remain our foremost concern because they are the foundations that underlie all pursuit of growth, development, and prosperity. A peaceful, stable, and secure East Africa is a competitive and prosperous East Africa. As we work and as we continue to work on such challenges to the growth of trade and investment as persistent on non-tariff barriers, distracting and costly trade disputes, conflicting tax regimes, weak enforcement, and inadequate resources, we must also take seriously the fundamental shortcomings to our agenda that is low involvement of the private sector, even as we prepare to get and stay on top of emerging threats in the digital space as well as climate change. Now that we have adequately established that this assembly possesses what it takes to drive our vision of a prosperous, competitive, secure, stable, and politically united East Africa, I take this opportunity, honorable members, to pose a few issues to the honorable members gathered here. It is important for us to lay a strong foundation for East Africa to make a transformative contribution to Pan-African integration and the emergence of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area as the next hub of global investment, trade, and industry. In order to do this, we have to complete the implementation of all the pillars of EAC integration urgently and equally critically align our integration agenda with a broader African transformational paradigm under the Africa we want. Secondly, we must provide a strong framework for achieving rapid leapfrogging and the development of sustainable competitive advantage in emerging high-tech fields, such as the digital economy in general, and artificial intelligence, automation, robotics, and machine learning in order to stay ahead of both threats and opportunities that will continue to unfold in a rapidly digitizing global economy. Thirdly, there is need to lend your support to the African Leaders Nairobi Declaration and Call to Action, which defines a strong and distinctly African contribution to the global discourse on humanity's foremost existential challenge by affirming the nexus between climate action and sustainable development, and calling for increased investment in Africa to kickstart a green industrial revolution. Let me explain, because it is important. When we met in Nairobi last year, we made a deliberate decision that we were no longer going to be in the corner where we are seen as victims of climate change, and where our big preoccupation is on complaining, finger-pointing, and doing what we've done for many years, that we are going to reposition our continent as a place of opportunity, great potential, and ready for investment. Because indeed, it is no longer tenable for us to continue wearing the badge of conflict and disease and poverty, when in our borders we have the largest deposits of mineral. In fact, 30% of world natural minerals and natural resources are in our continent. We have 60% of all renewable energy resources globally. We have 1.4 billion people market. In fact, by 2025, it is going to be the single largest market in the world. We have 2/3 of the world's uncultivated, arable land that we can use for food security. Ladies and gentlemen, with those kind of resources, it is incorrect to classify our continent as a continent of conflict, poverty, and disease. In fact, as one Nigerian great philosopher said, that until the lion learned how to write their story, all stories glorified the hunter. So it is time for us to write our own story. And our own story is not about disease, it's not about conflict, it's not about poverty. It is about great potential that we have. It is about the opportunities that we have. It is about the investment that is awaiting, and position our continent as the only place where the next industrial revolution is going to happen. And therefore, it is important for you as legislators from EAC to appropriate this position so that together we can push a new narrative for our continent. To ameliorate the resource constraints which persistently hamper our progress, this assembly is called upon to reflect deeply on the range of opportunities and the various ways in which it can complement national and regional efforts to mobilize and allocate more resources for the regional integration agenda. And as you do that, you must have in sharp focus what we are doing in EAC and how we can complement what we are doing as a continent. In particular, I challenge you to apply your deliberative bandwidth to the forthcoming World Bank Group's International Development Association, IDA Summit. And let me explain what we are going to do in this summit. When we had this conversation last year, And our development partners realized that we were changing the narrative about our continent and that we no longer wanted to be victims. We wanted to be part of the solution. They asked me to host the first IDA replenishment, what we are calling IDA 21 replenishment here in Nairobi, together with the World Bank. So we are going to host it on the 29th of April 2024. And what is the conversation? The conversation here is East Africa will, for the first time, have the opportunity to witness from a close quarter and contribute to the important deliberations of critical implementation of our growth agenda and development. At this event, African leaders, including many from the global south and low-income countries, will articulate a strong case for an ambitious and robust 21st replenishment of IDA, which is the largest source of development assistance and donor funding for basic social services for the world's 75 low-income countries, and to support economic transformation, especially in Africa and throughout the global south. So let me contextualize this. You know, we have two fundamental problems, and that is why many of our countries are struggling with the debt. Two fundamental problems. Problem number one is debt management. The kind of debt infrastructure that we have has very short grace period, has very short tenure, and therefore it becomes very difficult to undertake any meaningful development. Our position is that we should increase the grace period for money borrowed for development, not 3 years, maybe 10 years. We should increase the tenure of debt for development resources, not 15 years, but maybe between 40 and 50 years. That way, when you mobilize resources for development, you have adequate time to be able to undertake that development without the constraints of having to repay this debt. That is number one. Number two, the other problem that we have in the whole of financing development is what we are calling responsible sovereign lending. What do we mean by that? We're saying it is no longer tenable for us to have this big animal called credit rating, where countries using arbitrary formula are rated here, and if you don't do certain things, you are taken down, and as you are taken down, you pay more interest. It is also, we need to have a conversation about credit rating agencies, and we need to have a conversation about risk assessment. Because there is perceived risk that becomes larger than real risk. And that perceived risk is pushed by certain quarters to make Africa uncompetitive. And that is the reason why, while others are accessing development resources at 1 or 2%, most African countries are accessing development resources in markets at between 10 and 15%. Explain to me, honorable members, if one set of countries are accessing development resources at 1, 2%, and another is accessing between 10 and 15%, is it realistically possible for us to grow at the same rate? No. This is the conversation we must have. You know? And we must remove this arbitrary unfairness. You know, this arbitrary unfairness from global financing. And that is why we are saying we must have a thorough conversation about the reform of multilateral development banks and the whole international financial architecture as a whole. When we started this debate a year ago, we looked like mad people. But I promise you, today, in every meeting, everybody has come to the conclusion that there is a problem with the architecture of international financing. And the conversation is no longer if, the conversation is when are we and how are we going to reform it. And that is why it is important for institutions like the East Africa Legislative Assembly to apply itself, apply your mind to what kind of contribution are you going to make in this reform that is going to make our economies access development financing. It is the only way we can make meaning to our development. The last IDA replenishment, for example, in 2021 raised US dollars 91 billion, which was disbursed to eligible beneficiary countries over a period of 3 years. The Kenya Summit that we are holding in April aims to highlight to donors and other development partners critical priority target areas of development financing in Africa and in our region, make the case for a significantly higher level of financing in either 21 cycle, and support East African countries to effectively address development challenges and exploit the huge opportunities that we have in our region. This is the candid conversation we're going to have. And I am very confident that the fact that World Bank accepted that this was a necessary exercise confirms to us that somebody somewhere is listening to what we are saying. You know? And our position is, it is not going to be done until it is done. Yes. I have invited my fellow heads of state and government to participate in this highly important platform. Being confident of this Assembly's capacity to facilitate transformative interventions, I urge you, honorable members, to join this course and formulate your contributions to this endeavor with urgency. Give some imagination, put in it some ambition, so that together we can push an agenda that is going to support all our economies. I am highly obliged to you, Honorable Speaker, for inviting me to address this Assembly. I do not take your consideration for granted, and I believe we're going to have a discourse that is going to be beneficial for all our countries. I wish you all, honorable members, productive engagements, insightful debates, and fruitful deliberations as you usher in the third session of this Assembly. Feel at home while you are in Kenya. It's called Magical Kenya, the home of all humankind. And I urge Honorable Omar Hassan, Chair of the Kenyan chapter of the Assembly, to use this session to introduce you to the warmth and hospitality of our country. And I urge you, Honorable Hassan, to make that only in places that are licensed. And in no other places. So, honorable members, I really wish you well while you are in Kenya. And maybe by conclusion, the Speaker did make reference to what we are doing as East Africa. To give you the impression of what East Africa is doing, and therefore you must be very proud people that East Africa, in our continent, is the most progressive community. Our trade, intra-trade between East African countries is the highest in the African continent. We are providing the leadership. And therefore, you occupy a very special place. And I want to urge you to continuously apply yourself to this huge responsibility. You are not only doing this for East African citizens, you are trailblazing for the continent of Africa. So continue with diligence, but also a pace to make sure that you help us move the continent together. It is the reason, for example, why, as members of the summit in East Africa, as you're all aware, the chair of the AU is coming up next year, as the term of Musa Faki, our current chair, comes to an end. It is going to be the turn for East Africa to provide the chair of the Africa Union. We have sat down in the spirit of the East African community. We have consulted as heads of state from the East African community together, and we have agreed to sponsor one candidate as East Africans. As East Africans, because that is the strength of our community, that we can do things together and we can consult amongst one another. So it speaks to the spirit of the leadership that is being provided by our region. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much. May God bless you. May God bless Kenya. May God bless East Africa. And thank you very much for listening to me. Asanteni sana.
We move to order number 6, vote of thanks.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. President, for your great speech, statesman. We have learned, and as members of East African community, we'll have to implement many of your guidances. Now it's time for Honorable Paul Mwasa Musamali to move a vote of thanks. Honorable members, we shall have the opportunity to debate this great speech, this presidential speech, and we will do it when it will still be fresh in our memories. It will be done tomorrow morning, the whole day. From morning till the end, we'll be debating this great speech. So, Honorable Musamali, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and a member of the East African Community Heads of States Summit, Mr. Speaker, allow me, in the interest of time, to stand on the protocol as you already observed. I also want to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to thank you and the members of IALA for entrusting me to move this vote of thanks. Your Excellency, as already mentioned, my name is Paul Musamali. Among your people, where I come from, that is the Bukusu of Uganda. They say that when a big drum sounds, the small one cannot be heard. Now I'm conflicted because you have sounded a very big drum. But let me seek your indulgence and permission because of this wonderful and elaborate speech you have made. You allow me sound this small drum to thank you for this very important speech. Your Excellency, I want to take this opportunity again on behalf of IALA members to congratulate you upon your election to that office of President of Kenya. Because this is the first time we are meeting since you were elected, Your Excellency. I also want to take this opportunity, Your Excellency, to thank you for the work you have been doing in the service of the people of Kenya and the people of East Africa. We also want to take this opportunity, Your Excellency, to thank you for the statesmanship you have demonstrated in the service of the people of Kenya and in the service of the people of East Africa and the humanity at large. Your Excellency, it was already mentioned by the Right Honourable Speaker, we are very happy when we see you having or taking on efforts to ensure the unity of the people of Uganda, of Kenya, and the people of East Africa, and Africa in general, Your Excellency. We were happy, in particular, when we saw you with President Yoweri Museveni and the Right Honourable Raila Odinga in Uganda. Incidentally, you were all armed with sticks. But you did not harm each other. And among cattle keepers, because I saw cattle behind you in the background, the sticks are basically used to ward off the wild animals, to defend those very animals. So we are happy that you are working very closely with the President of Uganda, with your other colleagues, heads of states of East Africa, but above all, even with the Right Honourable Raila Odinga. I'm sure that we are going to see bigger things come. We thank you, Your Excellency, for for the speech you have delivered to this House. From what you have delivered, Your Excellency, I made some few notes, but I have come to understand that the integration of the East African community in particular and Africa in general is not a matter of luxury, but a matter of necessity. Because this is about our lives as the East African people and as the African people. As you may all be aware, honorable members and the public, Africa, just like the President has put it, we have been victims of circumstances. And some of the things were not the ones responsible. You are all aware, the African people were traded as slaves. We were herded as goods, as if we were cattle, into the markets. They were calling them slave markets. time came when the African people, we were divided. And that's why you see me, I'm the other side, and then the Right Honorable Wetangula is this side. We were divided as if they were dividing a loaf of bread. We were not responsible for that. Again, as we fought, because colonialism was physical, these colonialists withdrew. But as you are aware, they have come back in the form of neo-colonialism. In fact, this time, they are now controlling us both physically and virtually. They are smartly, they are now controlling us. Your Excellency, that is a serious threat to the African people, and it is therefore our responsibility for those of us in the leadership of Africa to ensure that we insulate Africa against these disruptive forces, Your Excellency. You have just given a number of examples, but let me just bring out two. The very last points you mentioned about debt management and responsible sovereign lending, right, Your Excellency. These are part of the disruptive forces. It is therefore our responsibility either to stand up, to be counted, or we again be hardened like they did before. Your Excellency, we have three points here which I want to bring to your attention. That for us to achieve our integration agenda, in fact, our mission and vision rotates around deepening cooperation and widening, deepening integration and widening cooperation. But it will take us to sacrifice if we are to achieve our integration agenda. Your Excellency, I want to bring to your attention three issues in as far as the integration agenda of East Africa is concerned. And you have talked about them. But while you are addressing us, you again gave us an assignment that can someone summarize what you have said? The blood started flowing very fast from my head to the toes because I had been asked to move a vote of thanks. I said, now, am I not going to have a retake in this assignment? But let me put it right on, Your Excellency. In East Africa, so far as noted, we have made tremendous achievements. But if it were a child, we haven't started even crawling. This child is just starting to sit, and that's where East Africa is. One of the challenges which we have, Your Excellency and Honorable Speaker, is about funding to the community. Funding to the community. Your Excellency, I'm now serving my second and last term in Yara. For us, we have only 2 terms, if you are likely to be re-elected. When we joined in 2017, each partner state was contributing $8.3 million to the community. Now, as we talk, and even that money is not enough. As you are aware, some countries will pay on time, and others will pay later, and others will start again demanding them after 2 or 3 years to pay. So meaning that even in the community budget is affected by the funding mechanism. But I want to take this opportunity, Your Excellency, to thank the Republic of Kenya and to thank you, Your Excellency, because Kenya has always been at the forefront in terms of funding, disbursement of the funds to the community. As we talk now, Kenya has already contributed 100% of its share, right, Your Excellency. So we thank you. But as we talk, this money has come down from 8.3 about 6 years ago to 7.8 million, 7.3 million. Now, Your Excellency, are we going ahead or we are driving in reverse? Because as we talk, we are even having more institutions and organs being created. And you have just tasked us here to ensure that those laws for fast-tracking the monetary union, we are able to do them. And in those laws, they are supposed to create institutions, for your information. Now, we are reducing the budget. Now, Your Excellency, what we want to bring to your attention as a member of the summit is that reconsider. We are aware that there is a sustainable funding mechanism that has been proposed, but still when you analyze it very well, it is just looking at how to generate the 7.3 million to go to East Africa, but not to increase. So we are requesting that you reconsider this position to increase funding to the community, such that you are able to be facilitated, the organs and institutions are able to be facilitated well to promote the integration agenda, Your Excellency. So we request that you escalate this to your colleagues, and we are sure if you prioritize East Africa, you have just told us, we shall have an expanded market, and where there is market, there will be production, and where there is production, there will be investment, and therefore employment. All these hustlers of yours, where you also belong, will be absorbed, Your Excellency. So we request that you prioritize East Africa, Your Excellency. Number two, I told you that we have three. One is about funding. Number two, this one is even yours. You are a champion of reforms. You have championed reforms. You are championing reforms at the UN, at the African Union, at the World Bank. Now, to mention but what? A few. Now, what happens to East Africa? Your Excellency, we are requesting that you champion reforms also in EAC. And those ones will entail, one, we are aware that there is a consideration of the making of the Confederation Constitution. But that one is going to take time. You have even just appealed to colleagues, South Sudan and elsewhere, to ensure that they go and mobilize the population and governments to participate in their proposals. So it may take time. So we are proposing that there are a number of amendments which have been prepared, and others are coming to the treaty. So as we work on the Confederation Constitution, let us amend the treaty to enable us work where we have not been able to work well. IALA is not autonomous, Your Excellency. We are requesting that make IALA autonomous, such that we are able to have the power and the ability to bite. We are supposed to oversight the institutions and the organs of the community. But these are the very ones who are facilitating us, who are deciding where to go and when. So we end up becoming toothless. I don't know, someone can conclude it. But ideally, we are almost becoming toothless dogs, because we can only maybe back, but biting becomes a very big problem. Your Excellency, the same applies to the East African Court of Justice. It is also not autonomous. We are operating, and to make matters worse, they have even put us in the same building. The Yala Court and the ES Secretariat, which is the cabinet, we are there together. Now, every time you want to oversight the Secretary General, you collide with him in the corridor. And then he says, what is happening? Mheshimiwa, is everything okay? So, we need your support, Your Excellency. Some of the things, Your Excellency, we need to fast track them. We have achieved some level at Customs Union. We have also achieved at some level in the Common Market Protocol. Iyala, for your information, Your Excellency, we passed almost all the laws responsible for the implementation of operationalization of the Monetary Union Protocol. However, some of the bills were returned for reconsideration. For us, we are ready to work on that. In fact, for your information, Your Excellency, I'm sure using your intelligence, you may have got it. There is a WhatsApp hoax going around that saying that the East Africa, that we have introduced a single currency. And do you know what, Your Excellency? The population outside there, they are very excited for your information. Out of a hoax. That is, you people, is it true we are now going to start using a single currency? So, now some of these things we need to fast track them, Your Excellency. Bernard Shaw remarked and said, progress is impossible without change. And those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. So let us work on changing those things which look like they cannot be changed. And you have demonstrated that you are a champion of change. Your Excellency, for your information, when they were counting votes and tallying them to be announced, myself and my wife, we didn't sleep. We were following it keenly. And when they announced you as the winner, Your Excellency, we celebrated. I don't want to say what followed next, but we celebrated. So we have been admiring you. We are your supporters, even when we are across. If we had the opportunity to come and vote, we would have done it. But we are happy that you won, and you are championing reforms and change. Be part of East Africa. You are already there, but ongeza moto. Lastly, it's about human resource in EAC. Your Excellency, in each and every organization, the human resource is the most important thing in any organization. And I want to bring this to your attention, that there is a need for all of partner states' governments to ensure that when you are deploying people in the service of the community, it should be people who are ideologically oriented and clear about the mission and the vision of the East African integration agenda. Otherwise, if we just deploy for the sake, or if we don't pay attention to whoever is being deployed at EAC, right from the Secretary General to the lowest cadre, Your Excellency, we risk employing merchants. They are just going there to look for money. We risk employing corrupt people. They will go there and they start squandering, the very dwindling support which is going there, it will still be squandered. We also risk in as far as East Africa is concerned, we also risk deploying collaborators. When we were being colonized, even when we were being traded as slaves, we had our own African people who were collaborating and working as agents of slaves, going in the countryside, collect people to the slave market. Then in collaboration, the others worked together with the collaborators, and with the colonizers, and we were colonized. So that is the same at the community. Today, Your Excellency, and the Secretary General is the focal point, is the center, is the accounting officer in the community. And the current holder is you, Mr. President. So I want to implore you, Your Excellency, that you take keen interest in ensuring that the Secretary General delivers to the expectations and aspirations of the people of East Africa. Thank you very much. May God bless you and bless East Africa. One people, one destiny. That is the slogan that guides us, Your Excellency. Thank you very much.
This is Honorable Musamali. Your Excellency, honorable members, before adjourning, I would like to remind you that we'll have a group photo session shortly after this sitting. The protocol will guide how to make it. And now, I adjourn this special sitting, Senate.